is the biggest reason why I called you is because I'm a big Malcolm X guy. I'm a big fan of Malcolm. I was born in New York, and I know the top rank, and you had affiliation in the past. But before we get into that, talk about your relationship with Robert Kennedy and how you became attorney general, lawyer, attorney, and then
No,
we'll.
I when Jack Kennedy was elected president,
Okay.
1960, became president,
Uh-huh.
61. The Kennedy administration uh, appointed uh, Bobby Kennedy, Jack's brother,
Mm-hmm.
to be Attorney General of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, he had to bring in people who were of top caliber to be the U.S. attorneys throughout the country in different districts.
Mm.
And in New York, in the Southern District of New York, which is Manhattan, Bronx, Westchester, he brought in Robert Morgenthau as the U.S. attorney. And Morgenthau selected a lawyer in New York who I had worked with named Vince Broderick, who became his chief assistant. And they recruited me to be the head of the tax section in the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York, the Southern District of New York. And I had been a big supporter, of Jack Kennedy. And, we were all caught up in the idea that we would do government service to help the country. I had been a tax lawyer for 4 years, and so I was very experienced, or relatively experienced in tax law. And so I came into the office in 1961, and sometime later that year, I was called to a meeting by Morgenthau that the Attorney General, Bobby Kennedy, was coming in. And that's when I met Kennedy, and he said that he had information, the IRS had information, that Roy Cohn, the infamous lawyer who was then acting as a boxing promoter of all things, was going to promote the first Patterson Liston fight. And he had a scheme where he would take all the proceeds from the fight and put them offshore and pay Patterson from a company that Cohn controlled on a 17-year deferred payment basis.
Oh, wow.
Which was not allowed. It's allowed now, but it wasn't allowed then. And on that basis, Bobby Kennedy asked us to look into whether we could seize the funds that were going to be made on the first Patterson Liston fight, and bring the case against Cohn to recover what should have been the taxes on that fight. And we researched it, and we obviously said that we could do it, that we should do it. And I was the head of that led the seizure of funds from that fight, and he had to justify that seizure. So I took the testimony of Roy.
Gotcha.
While I didn't know anything about boxing, I'd never seen a boxing match.
Really? So Liston Patterson was your first fight.
Liston
Patterson was your first fight.
I didn't see that fight, man. I was directing everybody in closed circuit box offices and seizing all the money from that fight.
Okay.
We had the biggest collections ever. We did, I think, close to $5 we seized, which is a lot of money then.
Wow.
And I had no interest in boxing, but obviously I had interest in the issues relating to the seizure of the funds, which was different. But by the time I finished that case and taken testimony, I had learned everything there was to know about the business of boxing.
Sure.
Not left hooks and right jabs, not who should fight whom, but how the business itself worked, the revenue streams and so forth. So when I left the office in 1965, I went with a firm in New York, a company that was televising boxing, asked me to represent them, the firm and myself to represent them. They were doing a closed circuit boxing match between Terrell and Chuvalo, which was a WBA title because someone had stripped Ali or something like that. And they weren't doing very well.